Hello and welcome. Tonight, President Bola Tinubu commissions military facilities in the nation's capital and salutes military for their efforts at keeping the enemy at bay as he commits to addressing their welfare. Vice President Kashim Shettima assures the international community of safe investment environments in Nigeria. A court of appeal sitting in Akure, the Ondo State capital, upholds the death sentence of Atelier Rahim Adedoyin over the murder of former students of Obafemi Awolowo University. And Russia says it is ready for the mutually beneficial dialogue with Donald Trump about the war in Ukraine.
On business news tonight, Nigerian Economic Summit Group projects a 5.5% growth for the country's GDP this year. It's expected to be driven by federal government's ongoing economic reforms.
On sports news tonight, Madison Keys fights back from a set down to shock Iga Swiatek in a nail-biter and set up an Australian Open final against two-time defending champion.
And men of the Nigerian military as heroes, thanking them for their efforts at protecting the nation at all times. The president, who was speaking at the commissioning of the Bola Ahmed Tinubu barracks and other newly constructed facilities, promised to address the welfare of the military. The president also performed the groundbreaking of the new Armed Forces Headquarters complex in Asokoro district in the nation's capital, Abuja. Our State House correspondent Larry Lasisi reports.
Officers and men of the Nigerian Armed Forces, federal legislators and ministers are here for the groundbreaking ceremony of the new Armed Forces Headquarters complex in Asokoro, Abuja. President Bola Tinubu is the special guest of honor. Speaking, the Minister of Defense and the Chief of Defense Staff believe the new complex can be a motivation for the armed forces.
I believe by bringing together the services under one roof, we are not just constructing a complex, we are building the foundation for enhanced strategic military planning, and operational synergy.
May this moment also reflect our resolve to work together and our serious need to bring this edifice to fruition. Let this renewed Armed Forces Headquarters complex be a national monument, a beacon of strength and resilience for all who serve and are serving in these great armed forces of Nigeria.
For the president, it is a time to appreciate men and officers of the armed forces.
I stand there to say thank you. Thank you for the improvement we have seen and the security, effectiveness, and the danger you faced most of the time. I salute you, and I'm ready to back you. You never lost any battle. This war, you will win and win again.
It was in time for the groundbreaking for the construction of the complex. From here, the president moves to the commissioning ceremony of the new Bola Ahmed Tinubu barracks in Asokoro. He also made clear his administration's commitment to the welfare of personnel of the armed forces.
Knowing that the federal government is always ready to provide what a troop needs to fulfill their mandate is essential for winning battles. You are our heroes, and I thank you for what you've been doing for this country. Your welfare cannot and we will not compromise on it. We will continue to commit resources to improve your welfare.
It's then time for the commissioning and a tour of the barracks. This barracks is set to address the acute shortage we understand the officers and men of the Nigerian army are experiencing in Abuja and around the country. And the president has made clear his commitment that he will address that as a show of his commitment to the men and officers who serve this country courageously. From here in Abuja, Lanre Lasisi, Channels Television News.
And now to the ongoing World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, where Vice President Kashim Shettima has assured the international community of a safe investment environment in Nigeria. The Vice President gave the assurance during a session on global risks report at the forum, reiterating Nigeria's dedication to harnessing the potential of its youth through investing in education and advancing smart agriculture. Our State House correspondent Empress Simon reports.
The opinions, the collective
opinions. On the fourth day of the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, Vice President Kashim Shettima joins experts to discuss the 2025 Global Risks Report.
Mali, nothing good comes out of it.
The report highlights an increasingly volatile landscape marked by accelerating geopolitical, technological, and environmental challenges. It also shows that state-based armed conflict is topping the list of 10 top global risks with 23%.
35, there will be 65 million global talent deficits.
However, the Vice President believes that Africa holds ample opportunities for the world, despite the challenges confronting the continent.
Even in the best of times, we are always facing existential threats. It's very, very terrible. But efforts are ongoing through different platforms like the ECOWAS, like the multinational joint task forces, to come up with robust solutions to the challenges facing us. But most importantly, my own perspective is that we should have a holistic approach.
It reaffirms Nigeria's resolve to embrace innovation and empowerment, particularly through education, gender-focused initiatives, and smart agriculture to propel its economy into the fourth post-industrial revolution.
Gender empowerment initiatives, investments in education, in healthcare, in infrastructure. Once we create hope for the youth, once we create hope for a better tomorrow, this sanity madness will evaporate. Because we are a very young continent. Do you know the average age of the Nigerian nation? It is 16.9.
16, yeah.
And this anticipated demographic bulge, we have the window of transforming them into demographic dividends.
Other speakers harp on the need to embrace technology, especially artificial intelligence, and also for countries to address the issues of gender inequality and high tariffs on trade, particularly by developed nations. From Davos in Switzerland, Empress Simon, Channels Television News.
Still from Davos, Switzerland, Nigeria has signed a letter of intent with the World Economic Forum to advance maternal health outcomes in the country. The coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Professor Ali Pate, signs the document on behalf of Nigeria at the ongoing World Economic Forum. By signing the letter of intent, Nigeria joined the Global Activators Network on Maternal Health, an initiative of Global Alliance for Women's Health, hosted at the week-long annual event.
Thank you. Yes, we can sign.
We're very pleased to have Nigeria join the network, and I'd also like to commend you also on your support to our program over the years. And I think the Women's Health Advisory Board in December, and I think it's Amira's hard work, also with Sham, helping give us direction. I think having this activator in the network now will be a huge benefit to all the other members in the network, so promote that exchange. And we believe that Nigeria will both be able to contribute with your knowledge and your experience and your leadership, but also we hope we can also benefit for Nigerian citizens, from this larger network of cooperation. So very happy to be here with you today.
The health and well-being of our population, especially women, children, and those who are vulnerable, is key part of the renewed hope agenda. So by signing this memorandum, joining and global activator network for women's health. We will accelerate together with partners external and internal within Nigeria, federal government, states, local government, private sector, and others, our effort to reduce maternal mortality, to improve the health of women and children, to deliver primary healthcare services. This partnership will bring together experiences, knowledge, capacity, opportunities to innovate, and catalytic financing opportunities over time that we will deploy to accelerate the pace of progress that we're making in Nigeria. And what we learn in Nigeria is relevant for the rest of the world, because this activator network is also looking to learn from all the great things that the federal government of Nigeria is doing under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's leadership.
Back home in Nigeria, lawmakers have condemned the envelope system of appropriation for the annual budget, describing it as anti-democratic and calling for its discontinuation by the federal government. This criticism was voiced by the Senate as the Appropriations Committee began receiving reports from various Senate committees. The committee emphasized that the envelope system undermines effective budget planning and development, asking the government to adopt a more efficient and needs-based approach. Our National Assembly correspondent Gloria Umezoke reports. For 2 weeks since the 2025 budget defense sessions began, chairmen of the various committees are now turning out a slate of reports for compilation by the Appropriations Committee. Various committees, including Interior, Livestock and Special Duties, take turns to make their submissions.
There should be sufficient provision for the immigration to defend our borders and perform their job more diligently, and the correctional home for them to be able to manage, feed those who are put under their custody.
At each presentation, appeals for more budgetary allocation is predominant.
The observations made was the envelope system of budgeting. To me, and I make bold to say, the envelope system of budget, it is undemocratic in nature. You want MDS to perform. Unfortunately, you are handcuffing them.
The request that NEMA should be placed on first line charge is equally very, very germane. And then with regard to the envelope system of budgeting, I equally agree with you that this envelope system of budgeting should be discouraged.
Additionally, we are having the drawbacks in implementation occasioned by some bureaucratic bottlenecks. So all this put pressure on the budget process.
While the submissions are happening, more agencies are showing up for their defense. It's the turn of the Nigerian Education Loan Fund to appear before a joint committee on tertiary institutions and TED Fund.
This student loan fund, before 2027, based on projection, it will create value addition to more than 10 million people in educational sector.
We have about 2.5 million students on our database. The total number of loans given, both institutional loans and upkeep, because they apply for two, is 680,658, and the total loan amount committed to is 116 billion.
After reviewing the budget proposal, the Joint Committee approved 58.4 billion naira allocation via a voice vote. Meanwhile, the Senate Committee on Capital Market has rejected the 2025 budget proposal of the Investment and Securities Tribunal, owing to discrepancies and errors in the figures and items presented. The committee has directed the IST chairman to return on Friday to represent the corrected budget. We're now at a pivotal point here in the National Assembly where activities in the last couple of weeks have nearly reached a crescendo. Compilation of these reports are now expected to continue in the next few days before plenary resumes next week. From the National Assembly, Gloria Umezoke, Channels Television News. In part two, after the break, police rescue for Lashade Odumosu, wife of retired Inspector General of Police Hakeem Odumosu, killing two of the kidnappers in the process. Please join us again. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, broadcasting live from Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. President Bola Tinubu salutes the military for their efforts at keeping the enemy at bay as he commits to addressing their welfare. Vice President Kashim Shettima assures international community of safe investment environment in Nigeria. Court of Appeal sitting in Akure, the Ondo State capital, upholds the death sentence of hotelier Rahim Adedoyin over the murder of former students of Obafemi Awolowo University. And Russia says it is ready for a mutually respectful dialogue with Donald Trump about the war in Ukraine. Let's head to the court now, where the Court of Appeal sitting in Akure, the Ondo State capital, has upheld the death sentence passed on popular Osun hotelier Ramon Adedoyin for his involvement in the murder of Timothy Adegoke, a former master's degree student at the Obafemi Awolowo University, Ife in Osun State. In her ruling, Justice Jane Enyang dismissed the appeal filed by Mr. Adedoyin, upholding the earlier judgment of the Osun State High Court in the case. The appellate court, however, set aside some aspects of the lower court's ruling.
The court has upheld the conviction by the trial court for those various offences, especially for conspiracy to kill, unlawful killing, accessory after the fact, and some other offences. But however, the court quashed certain aspects of the decision of the trial court, especially the decision that relates to the order of the trial court mandating the respondent, the convicts, to be responsible for the education of the children of the deceased Timothy Adegoke. The court, in its judgment today, held that for convictions, the jurisdiction of the court is limited to the statutory provisions as to the penalty provided by the law. So the statutory provision is either the trial court complies with the maximum penalty or the minimum. So anything outside the two, the court will not have jurisdiction to so do. So on that basis, the conviction of the appellant, Dr. Ramon Adedoyin, that you will be responsible for the education of the deceased, forfeiture of his property to the state government, have been quashed by the Court of Appeal.
The abducted wife of the former Assistant Inspector General of Police, Hakeem Odumosu, has regained freedom after operatives of the force, led by the Commissioner of Police in Ogun State, Larry Ogunlowo, neutralized her abductors. A statement from the Force Public Relations Officer, ACP Olumwewa Dejobi, says the operatives equally recovered a ransom paid to the kidnappers as a bait. The statement reiterates the commitment of the police to safeguard Nigerians and the nation. The retired AIG's wife, Olashade Odumosu, was abducted last Thursday at the entrance of her residence in the Arepo area of Ogun State. And from security matters, we move to construction, where the federal government has already approved the extension of the Kuje Township Road to Peggy Community in Kuje Area Council. The Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Mr. Nyesom Wike, made the announcement during the commissioning of the newly reconstructed section of the Kuje Township carriageway in the nation's capital.
This 5-kilometer asphalt carriageway from the garage junction to the LEA Secretariat within the headquarters of Kuje Area Council is the fourth road project to be commissioned by the Federal Capital Territory Administration this year. The minister arrives amidst cheers from the residents of the area. The project was flagged off in February 2024 as one of the rural emergency projects, which aims to reduce traffic congestion and open up the commercial activities in the area.
I know that Mr. President is so convinced that this is a man that needs all the support for more performance. And I'm sure that is why FCT budget in the 2025 estimate has gone beyond one line estimate.
Kuje is wearing a new look. If you are in Kuje at night, you think as if you are in Metema or Asokoro. The people of FCT will forever remain grateful to you and the administration of His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
As they bring
Beyond this project, the FCT administration has more plans for the area.
Today, let me tell you that Mr. President has approved again. We must have to continue Kuje to Peggy. When he said we should continue from where the road stopped to Kwapu, let me say it now, by the grace of God, when we are presenting our budget, our statutory budget to the National Assembly, we will include it.
The minister also speaks on the plans for the provision of water.
Mr. President has provided a sum of 50 billion naira to provide water to the satellite towns. Tinubu's administration is not about party. It's about Nigerians, changing the lives of Nigerians.
Accompanied by other dignitaries, the minister commissions the project.
The federal government plans to pay 75,000 naira each to 10 million households through the conditional cash transfer program. And this initiative, which is expected to commence between February and April this year, aims to provide financial support to targeted poor and the vulnerable households across the country. The Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction, Professor Netamwa Yiltuada, disclosed this during the launch of the 2025 Nigeria Humanitarian Needs and Response Plan by the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs in Abuja. Our correspondent Benny Ark reports.
From Oche there.
This is the launch of the 2025 Nigeria Humanitarian Needs and Response Plan, organized by the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs. According to a recent report by the UN OCHA, in 2025, an estimated 7.8 million women, men and children across Borno, Adama and Yobe states will require humanitarian assistance, with over 1.8 million of these currently displaced due to persistent violence in the states. Also, UNICEF reports that 40% of the 110 million Nigerian children under 5 have stunted growth, while about 2 million vulnerable people in Zamfara and Sokoto states require access to medical treatment, psychosocial support, and nutritional diets. In response to these numerous humanitarian challenges, the United Nations is launching the 2025 Nigeria Humanitarian Needs and Response Plans to address these challenges.
There are humanitarian needs across Nigeria due to diverse range of causes, from food insecurity to internal displacement due to intercommunal violence, as well as climate impact shock. In 2025, food insecurity across Nigeria is projected to affect over 33 million people during the lean season, with an alarming level of acute malnutrition threatening the life of millions of children. These figures underscore the gravity of the challenge that we face and that we have to stand ready for.
Because of the funding, we are having to make extremely difficult choices. And these are one of the critical dilemmas we are facing as the humanitarian community, not just in Nigeria, but globally. We have to prioritize, we have to target the most vulnerable, because simply we cannot help everyone.
The federal government is committed to addressing these challenges through robust interventions.
The structured Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction is committed to timely, effective, and life-saving humanitarian responses and poverty reduction. We will continue to coordinate intervention at all levels, ensuring that they align with the national humanitarian and poverty reduction priorities, assure all stakeholders of the ministry's unwavering commitment to implement the humanitarian response plan.
We are reminded that the numbers in this report represents real lives, children, women and men, whose resilience inspires us to act with urgency and compassion. It is a call to action for all stakeholders to work tirelessly to ensure that no one is left behind.
The response plan serves as a call to action for collective efforts to address the pressing humanitarian needs in the country. Benny Ark for Channels Television News.
In other stories, the Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mr. Mohammed Idris, is asking the leadership of the Bureau of Public Procurement to prioritize public enlightenment to educate Nigerians on the new reforms in the agency. Mr. Idris made the remark when he received the Director General of the Bureau, Mr. Adedoyin, in his office in Abuja.
Before now, issues of procurement sometimes have been shrouded in some form of mystery. I'm glad that you are unraveling this now, making it public. There's really nothing to hide. If Company A gets a contract, let everyone know that Company A has gotten a contract. These are the reasons. Tomorrow, if you want to get it, you also bid, and then the opportunity is there for you. Once this transparency is being upheld by your agency, I can tell you that people will lose contract and be happy for it. And I think this is where you are going. Our platforms are there. We'll use this platform, we'll make them available to you so that you go there and tell Nigerians the new thinking, what is happening. There is nothing that is now shrouded in mystery. Everything about procurement is now transparently displayed for you to criticize even. And I like this thinking that when you say you are probing or you are asking questions, it's not necessarily that you are fighting the BPB. You are actually asking questions so that you can get it better. And I'm glad that you are taking that, positively, happily, so that you can also tell Nigerians what you do. When there are mistakes, we also bring those feedbacks back to you so that you keep it's a work in progress. We keep improving on this system. The renewed hub agenda promised by Mr. President is already here.
We're still ahead on the news at 10. Nigerian Economic Summit Group projects 5.5% growth for the country's GDP this year, expected to be driven by ongoing economic reforms. And that's in business news. Please join us again. Welcome back. The federal government has read the riot act to the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Boards JAMB and the National Examination Council NECO over cases of examination malpractices. Addressing the registrars of the examination bodies in Abuja, the Minister of Education, Mr. Tunji Alausa, says cases of leakages of examination questions is hurting the nation's education sector. The minister explains that the federal government is determined to improve the nation's education sector and will not tolerate cases of examination malpractices of any form.
Significant deterioration of their academic output. That is similar to what's happening when we allow exam to leak. The students that would normally work hard to pass those exams would not work hard again. They will now turn to being bad by now looking for those exams, looking for those questions. And I'm going to tell you straight, we have to be true. I know cameras, we have several cameras here, but let's wash our dirty laundry in the public. That's how we can improve ourselves. There's nothing to hide. This Ministry of Education, the President has a clear mandate. We have to provide high qualitative education to our citizens and directly and indirectly improve our human capital development. I'll tell you today, Nigeria Human Capital Index is one of the lowest in the world. We have a Human Capital Index of 0.32. And I'll tell you what that means. What that means. Human Capital Index of 0.32 means a child born in Nigeria today would only have 30% chance of unleashing his entire potential in his entire life.
The Lagos State government has issued a 48-hour ultimatum to traders operating on the Akpongbo Bridge, as well as those operating on the drainage setbacks on Lagos Island, to vacate preparatory to the commencement of urban regeneration of the Lagos Island. The Commissioner for Environment and Water Resources, Mr. Tokunbo Wahab, issued the notice while addressing the media after an inspection tour of the area and the drainage channel in their axis. It says the inappropriate human activities in the axis massively contribute to flooding, posing serious threat to lives and property.
It's the second time in a week that the Lagos State Commissioner for Environment and Water Resources, Mr. Tokunbo Wahab, is out for an inspection exercise. This time, the Commissioner and his team visit market areas in Lagos to see the level of environmental infractions going on. Obviously, this area is unkempt. Akpongbo Under Bridge is another spot taken over by poultry and cattle businessmen. The Commissioner asks them to vacate the space. The aerial view of Ibuteru shows the rooftop of structures and makeshift shops built on drainage setback. The drainage has also been covered with blue planks by people who occupy the space to sell their goods, and government says such acts will not be tolerated.
You can't and we won't allow anybody make this state an obedient state where life becomes nasty, British and short. These are public infrastructure built for public use. Now they have made them shops, and we have to stop it, and we are stopping it right away.
The Commissioner wants market operators to maintain designated market spaces as allocated by the local governments and keep the environment clean.
Before now, the governor had awarded the contract for the regeneration of Lagos Island, the drainage system, and then the road infrastructure. However, we noticed some areas were not part of it, and they are already captured in the different projects. So we came in this point to assess them, and I'm glad you were there with us. People had willfully built to narrow down our collectors' paths, turn them to the trading points, trading on most of them, and blocked them at some point. So what we have asked them to do is kindly come and serve the notices, and then let them remove these contraventions, so we can clean up and then do the right thing for the public.
48 hours relocation notice has been issued by the Ministry of Environment and Water Resources to illegal stall owners on drainage setbacks. If not adhered to, government says the area will be cleared for free movement around the marketplace.
To company news, Samsung, the world's mobile phone giant, has unveiled its highly anticipated Galaxy S25 series, designed as a true AI companion in Lagos. The company says the new device brings to the table personal data engine development through knowledge craft technology.
The unpacking of the Samsung Galaxy S25 series begins with the press briefing by the management of the company.
The Samsung Galaxy S25 series can actually preempt your next action, and then it will advise you accordingly. It doesn't stop there. The device equally comes with a more advanced AI feature that allows you to seamlessly navigate across multiple applications.
Samsung has been investing in technology and in AI technology, to be very precise. So, like Stephen had said, today we are unpacking the new S25 series.
After the briefing, the event for unveiling of Samsung's latest product gets underway. Managing Director, Samsung East Africa, Tyson Lee, in his address, thanked all loyal customers for attending this colorful event.
I'm especially delighted to have greatly respected leaders, entrepreneurs, creators, and pioneers celebrate with us tonight. Thank you for being part of this event, and thank you for believing in Samsung's vision.
An evening filled with excitement, which brings together some personalities who have stayed true to the Samsung brand. Then comes the moment everyone has been waiting for, the unpacking of the Samsung Galaxy S25 series.
Wow, wow, wow. Ladies and gentlemen, this is just a round of applause
natural, very intuitive. It preempts what you need and it helps you be a lot more productive. So everybody should actually aspire to get this device.
The phone is a personal assistant and executive assistant all in one. Like, it can help you plan your life. It helps you do practically everything.
They're recognizable and iconic, making each product unmistakably Galaxy.
As the Samsung Galaxy S25 series is unpacked, users can now experience a fully AI-enabled device with personalized updates in the morning and evening, and pull all relevant information needed from Samsung's apps and Google Suites, and then present it with an overview of your day.
We'll continue in the world of business. Dominic Iwewu is standing by.
Thank you, and welcome to Business News. The Nigerian Economic Summit Group says it projects Nigeria's gross domestic product to grow by 5.5% this year, and this is expected to be driven by the federal government's ongoing economic reforms. The optimistic forecast was made at the launch of the NESG's 2025 Macroeconomic Outlook. During his presentation, the Chief Economist and Director of Research and Development at the NESG, Mr. Olusegun Omishakin, pointed out that the growth outlook hinges on some key strategies, which include the need to control inflation, prudent government spending, improving revenue generation, boosting foreign exchange liquidity, and stability of the exchange rate. The NESG economist, however, cautioned that the GDP growth could plummet to 2.7% if some of the economic policy reforms are reversed. While the world seems to be giving a lot of attention to trade tariffs following the pronouncement of President Donald Trump, which tends towards protectionism, the Director General of the World Trade Organization, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, is asking for calm and reconsideration to macroeconomic issues. She was speaking during a session tagged Debating Tariffs at the ongoing 55th World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. Dr. Okonjo-Iweala, however, warned that a tit-for-tat trade war would be catastrophic for the global economy.
We've done the numbers. If we have tit-for-tat retaliation, whether it's 25%, tariff 60%, and we go to where we were in the 1930s, we're going to see double-digit global GDP losses. Double-digit. That's catastrophic. Everyone will pay. Everyone. And the poor countries will pay even more. Second, if we just do not quite tit for tat, but even a version of that, let's say we break into two trading blocks and, we're not trading across the world, and we layer in trade policy uncertainty. We've done that work too. We're going to lose 6.4% of real global GDP in the longer term. That's like losing the economy of Japan and Korea combined. $6.75 trillion. That's far from trivial, and that will hurt everyone also. So that's why I'm saying let our members, and they are listening, I want them to listen more. Could we use the methodologies? If you think you're being harmed, you as a member are entitled to launch a series of investigations to look at what is this harm, and then to show it. After that, you can request consultation from the economy that is harming you. And then we take it from there. There are processes laid out.
The local stock market sustained its previous bearish trend as more profit taken from the shares of MTN Nigeria and 25 other equities pushed the all-share index lower at the close of today's trading session. Inijo Mekwa tells us more.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the stock market report. Well, unfortunately, we do have a red market at the close of Thursday's trade. So even though we had about 103,000 for the all-share index intraday, at the close of trade, we lost 0.05% to close at 102,788.20. But we're still sustaining the 63 trillion level for the market cap. Well, banking retains that positive sentiment that we saw at the close of midweek trade yesterday. So we see FBN Holding is back on the gaining streak, is 0.2% up. UBA is also positive, and GTCO added a whole 1% on its share price. Accessco and Zenith. So the figures actually obviously move the market. So we can expect that looking at the sectors, banking would be in the green, and that exactly is what we see. More than 1% green. The figures have done it again. But consumer goods and oil and gas are not around there. Almost 1% for consumer goods. Not a good color for them at the close of Thursday's trade, and that has moved the market into the red zone, and so we see the bear at the close of trade again today.
And that's it on business news. Back to Anne for the rest of the news at 10.
Thank you, Dominic. A judge in the United States has temporarily blocked President Donald Trump's order to change birthright citizenship slated to take effect in February. Here's Simon Pizzo with the international news and around the world in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. The Kremlin says it is ready for a mutually respectful dialogue with US President Donald Trump about the war in Ukraine.
We're going to be talking with President Putin very soon.
It comes after Mr. Trump warned that Russia will face more sanctions if Mr. Putin doesn't stop what he described as the ridiculous war, a message Ukraine says they welcome. Meanwhile, an internal government memo suggests up to 10,000 troops could be deployed to the border with Mexico as parts of Donald Trump's crackdown on immigration. The memo says that the US Department of Defense bases may be used as holding facilities for migrants waiting to be deported. Meanwhile, the head of the World Trade Organization has warned that tit-for-tat trade wars could have devastating consequences for global growth.
Whether it's 25%, tariff 60%, and we go to where we were in the 1930s, we're going to see double-digit global GDP losses. Double-digit. That's catastrophic.
A new fast-moving wind has erupted in Los Angeles County, prompting tens of thousands of people to evacuate a region already reeling from the most destructive fires in its history. The Hughes fire ignited 45 miles northwest of the city of Los Angeles and grew to more than 10,000 acres in several hours, fueled by winds and dry bush.
Yes.
No homes or businesses have yet been damaged, and officials expressed confidence about getting it under control. The new fire is north of the 2 mammoth blazes that have destroyed a number of neighborhoods this month.
On the basis of evidence collected.
The top prosecutor at the International Criminal Court says he will seek arrest warrants against senior over the persecution of women and girls. Karim Khan said there were reasonable grounds to suspect several leaders bore criminal responsibility for crimes against humanity on gender grounds. ICC judges will now decide whether to issue an arrest warrant.
Haibatullah Akhundzada and the Chief Justice of the so-called Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan, Abdul Hakim Haqqani, bear criminal responsibility for the crime against humanity of persecution on gender grounds under Article 71H of the Rome Statute.
The Conservative opposition leader, tipped to lead Germany following next month's elections, has promised far-reaching changes to border and asylum rules after a group of children were targeted in a deadly knife attack in Bavaria. Friedrich Merz promised in effect to close Germany's borders to all irregular migrants, including those with a right to protection. A 2-year-old boy of Moroccan origin and a man aged 41 were killed in Wednesday's attack in Aschaffenburg, and several others were hurt. Palestinian families have continued to leave their homes in the Jenin refugee camp as an Israeli operation continued into its 3rd day. Hundreds fled for their safety, as advised by Israeli soldiers and drones. The Israeli army said in a statement that the operation is aimed at countering Iranian-backed militant groups in the volatile West Bank city. A new version of a self-flying cargo drone with double the power has been chosen by Aviation Without Borders for missions delivering acutely needed humanitarian aid to Central Africa. The Ultra Mark II has a range of up to 1,000 kilometers and can carry up to 150 kilograms of payload, staying aloft for up to 9 hours and can land on almost any terrain. The British aircraft is operational today in Ukraine, the United Kingdom and the United States, enabling organizations to transport meaningful payloads to hard-to-reach places quickly, safely and cost-effectively. It was originally conceived to bring down the cost of delivering humanitarian aid to remote communities. ASF plans to integrate a heavy-lift, long-distance drone into the humanitarian aid supply chain in the near future.
The infamous Les Paul
And Jeff Beck's famed 1954 Oxblood Gibson Les Paul guitar has sold for $1.32 million at auction, far above its price estimate. The electric guitar, which Beck bought in 1972 and which was depicted on the cover of his 1975 instrumental album Blow by Blow, was the leading lot of the auction. The sale featured some 130 guitars, amps and other equipment which Beck played or used during his 60-year career, from when he joined the Yardbirds in 1965 up until his last tour in 2022. Often referred to as a guitarist's guitarist, the genre-bending Beck, who died in 2023, was hailed as one of the greats and twice inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.
Thanks, Simon, and welcome to Sports News. A brace from Abba. Adam handed Kano Pillars a vital win against Ayimba International in a rescheduled Nigeria Premier Football League match day 14 clash played earlier this evening at the Sani Abacha Stadium in Kano. The win takes Pillars to 7th on the log with 28 points from 19 games, just a point above the People's Elephants, who have played 18 games this season. The second half of the league will return this weekend after a 3-week break. Manchester City has announced the signing of forward Umar Marmoush, with Kyle Walker joining AC Milan on loan as the club step up. They are rebuilding during a disappointing season. The Egypt's forward has signed a 4.5-year contract with the English Premier League champions for an initial fee of £59 million, with add-ons worth a potential £4 million. Well, welcome Umar to City. The sports. I'm Kelly Egiga. It's back to her.
Thank you, Kelly. And the main news again. President Bola Tinubu today saluted the nation's military for their efforts at keeping the enemy at bay. The president, who was speaking at the commissioning of some new military facilities, also promised to address the welfare of the military. Also today, the Vice President Kashim Shettima assured members of the international community attending the World Economic Forum in Davos of Nigeria's safe investment environment. We also told you that the Court of Appeal sitting in Akure, the Ondo State capital, has upheld the death sentence of hotelier Rahim Adedoyin over the murder of former students of Obafemi Awolowo University. And Russia says it is ready for a mutually respectful dialogue with Donald Trump about the war in Ukraine. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Anne Nwawade. Good night and stay safe.